And then please take that all in. And bring the meditation to a close with respect. So any very quick shares or questions about that experience? And you can just unmute yourself. That was boring, I know. Any question or quick share?
I'll say something. I guess, like, I think it's a little hard to talk because it's so,
Yeah.
it kind of takes you so deep. So,
it's also a little trancy.
yeah, and the very last part, the very, very last thing, I didn't hear exactly what you said, for, like, when you bow your head to them and, like, receive their blessing. And I heard part of it, but I didn't hear the whole thing because I was kind of off. But I did whatever. I guess it didn't matter because I don't know. I guess they heard it because it was like I felt them, like, give me, like, put, like, a big, like, jeweled crown on my head, and I kind of accepted it, and that was really cool. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Trudy.
Yeah, one thing that came up toward the end, I don't know if it's when we were looking for those that had a similar experience. Mine is not being able to ask or feel like I deserve to receive money, to directly ask for it. It was a feminine thing. It was women in the family line. That was not part of what was okay for women.
Yeah.
They were delegated to a different kind of life. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that, Judy. I have noticed, and I'm going to go ahead and mute you just so we don't have the echo. I have noticed, and I'm not going to get into it in this call, the patriarchy is something that we've all got to deal with. It just is. It's distorted our experiences of so many different things. And one of the things I find in the longer programs that we actually do a fair bit of just healing both the male and female lineages around how distorted femininity and masculinity have been made by the patriarchy. And the impact has been profound on both sides. With respect to women, what every woman on this call is dealing with is we're kind of the set of first generation at best who have choices about this stuff. This is a big deal. And there are lots of women around the world who still don't. And we feel them in our hearts, you know, those 14-year-old girls in Afghanistan, right? So, again, to bow to the women as well as the men who are distorted by the patriarchy, and ask for their blessing to be in a sense, the first generation of women who have the honor of making choices about work and money. In a robust way. Obviously, there have been some over the millennia who have had that, but it's been a very limited population of women in most cultures. And it's like that table again. You know, if you had all of your female lineage at a table and you're the only one with food, you push it away. And the women are going, will you eat that food? I'm not kidding. Knock it off. We want you to eat, really. So to feel that blessing from the women who did not have many choices, but what they did do still had honor, right? We don't want to see our female ancestors as poor victims. They want us to see their strength and their endurance and their creativity. Yeah. So thanks for that, Judy. That's a whole another thing. And is completely relevant, by the way, Alvaro, for the men in my classes, because the distortions of patriarchy around being able to be the kind of man we'd like to be has been a big deal for a lot of my clients as well. So the distortions are all around. Okay, I'm going to shift gears to another topic. And I'm going to screen share again. Okay. So, business reframing. This is something I do a lot of with people. We've already been doing it a lot on this call already. It is really useful to have best business practices. It's important to learn them. It's also important to keep working with your current blocks, your ecology. But reframing business is often the key for alternative practitioners and coaches to start feeling better about business really, really quickly. Because again, all these things that we have so much distortion about in our culture. So I want to go through 4 of these distortions around business in our culture that makes it really hard for us and creates anxiety and shuts us down and makes it hard for us to stay in action. The first one is, I've mentioned it before, resistance to commodifying healing. A lot of us just have a really hard time feeling good about that. Okay. The second one is, if we have any issues around self-worth, self-esteem, am I of value? Well, trying to get someone to pay you for something is going to kick that stuff up, right? So if I'm not worthy, if I am not of value, then who am I to go into business and make money in this way? Third thing, are we safe? So very frequently what I notice for clients is that they are managing their business interactions with people with the unconscious intention of keeping one or both parties safe from something. So, if I don't talk about money, I'm keeping my client safe from feeling uncomfortable. Or I'm keeping myself safe from looking like a bad, greedy person. If I stay invisible and I don't promote, then I'm keeping myself safe from being visible and being accused and humiliated of anything and doing anything wrong. Okay. So a lot of people are getting caught by managing, is it possible to be safe in these interactions, in selling in particular? And then finally, the last one, can business be ethical? It feels sometimes yucky, inauthentic, and incongruent. And these are things I've said before, but I want to come to some of the solutions. These are the reframes that will help us feel better about business. The first one is when we decide that we're going to commit to being honest and authentic, it kind of removes the threat of like being captured by inauthenticity. What do I mean by this? So, I'm trying to think of, there was a great one today on a Facebook group that I'm in. And this guy just said, you know what? Someone wrote me about 6 weeks ago and said, can I post on your blog? And back in December, and he said, sure. And then as he thought about it, he realized, you know what? I really don't want anyone else posting on my blog. I really regret doing that. She never really responded. In about 6 weeks, she finally sent something to him. And he posted to us saying, what do I do? And almost everyone said, just tell her. Just say, you know what? I'm really sorry, but it's been 6 weeks and I've really rethought this. That's it. Mark Silver at Heart of Business says, 95% of all marketing problems can be solved by being honest. I'll give you another example. I had a client who was trying to decide between two niches. And we were trying to talk about it. And he said, what do I do? I sit down and someone says, what do you do? I have to come up with an answer. And I said, what would it be like if you were at a bar and someone said, what do you do? And you said, you know what? It's a really good question. I'm thinking about this or this. I'd be really interested in your opinion on that. And he said, I can do that? I'm like, yes. You can just be honest about that. Or a final example was a client of mine who had gotten herself into a bit of a jam because she had set a special and then she never stopped the special. So the special was now the kind of way it was. She said, I don't know how to get out of it. And I said, write to your people and say, I never intended to keep the special this long. I'm really sorry about that. I know that a lot of you maybe think now this is the standard, which means that I'm gonna continue to keep it at this price until October. I want to let you know, come October, it's going to go back to my regular prices. Yeah? It's just being honest. When you discover that you can actually be honest and authentic and that it's safe and it actually works better, and you don't need to do these gyrations around, how do I get out of the special? Do I have to stick to the special? Because now the things we get ourselves confused about, then you can actually relax a little bit. The second one, business is a dignified exchange. You are not, when someone decides to buy your services, you are not conning people. You're not getting people to do something against their will. You're not putting their arm behind their back and stealing $200 from them. They have, whatever check they write is a result of their work, right? They're a doctor or a lawyer or a massage practitioner, or they were an administrative assistant or whatever they are, and they make money and they decide, oh, I want a family constellation with Judy, and I'm going to write her a check for $150. And you accept it. Yeah, I made up a number. I don't know what you're ready for yet, Judy, but I just made up a number. And she's laughing. And you take it and then you give them the service with all of your authenticity and ethics. You know? It's a dignified exchange between two peers. It's not getting something from somebody, hustling somebody out, right? It's the way business sometimes looks. Doesn't need to be that way. Honor our cultural limitations. I've already referenced this. Business works and feels better when we bow to the fact that we do live in a culture that's limited around its ethics in business, and acknowledge it. So I'm not going to spend time on that. I've already referenced that. Managing neediness properly. This is super important. So we're all needy. This is perfectly understandable. We need to feel safe, secure. We need to feel like we're worthy. We need to feel like we're of value. We need to feel like we're good people. That's my big hot button one, is feeling like I'm a good person. Some of these we have more of a neediness around than others. What we really want to avoid, and which we get caught in, is asking or expecting our client to provide for that need. What do I mean by that? I'm on a free consultation call with a potential client, and I am unconsciously feeling, if she doesn't buy it, I'm a bad person. Or if she doesn't buy it, I am an unworthy person. Or if she doesn't buy it, I am not going to be secure in life. Many variations on this. We never want to lay on a client buying a product from us, getting those fundamental core needs met. It's not their business, it's not their job, and it's even a little yucky. Yeah, we do this all the time, believe me. I mean, I'm sure some of you went, oh my God, I totally do that. I'm feeling nervous, she's not going to buy, am I an okay person, blah, 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 right? The way in which we get those needs met is through our own personal growth practices. And in deference to Alvaro, I might say our own spiritual growth practices. Yeah, discovering that we are of worth, we are secure in life in some deep existential kind of way, that we are lovable, that we are a good person. Yeah, this is something we work out in our own growth process. And the more we do that intentionally, the less we have the tendency to project that on whether a client buys or doesn't buy. Because we want a client to be free to say no to us. Yeah? And that no doesn't mean anything about us either. At least in that core way. It might mean we need to do our conversations better or whatever. That's fine. We might have some business learning to do around that decline. But it's not about our core worthiness. Yeah? So learning to manage that neediness, which is perfectly proper to us, and just fine to have. All of us need reassurance on these matters. It's part of being human. We just want to learn how to disengage that from selling. It's not, yeah. Selling something does not reassure us that we're okay people. Which takes us to the next bullet, noticing the fundamental okayness of everyone. Alvaro and anyone else who's been through the NLP Marin programs will recognize this framework. I borrowed this from Carl Buchheit at NLP Marin. This is really, really useful stuff. Think about your interactions with clients, particularly selling interactions. We're usually okay once we've sold something and we're providing the service, or we're doing a trade, or we're giving it away for free, or whatever. Once we're doing the service, we're usually kind of okay. But the selling interaction, ask yourself this question: what are you protecting yourself from? What are you trying to keep yourself safe from? Yeah? Whatever answer you come up with is just fine. It's usually some variation. I'm trying to avoid failure. I'm trying to avoid humiliating myself. I'm trying to avoid making them uncomfortable or making them feel bad, or, there are variations on this. But often we're caught up in protecting one or both of us from some aspect of the selling interaction. The corrective to this is to notice the fundamental okayness of everyone, and that this interaction is not dangerous to anyone. Someone's calling me up, and several of you have had these conversations with me. You can use them as reference points. I am not managing my selling conversations with you, and yes, they've been selling conversations whether you decide to buy or not, right? Is not about keeping you or me safe from anything. I know we're both already okay, and now I'm just free to talk about my service and inquire about you and your needs, and to let you decide what it is that you want. And the only reason why I'm doing it that way is because I've worked really hard on this. I just do want to say, it did not come immediately. I spent the first few years really confused about selling and all that stuff. But this is the goal. The last thing I just want to say, which is, this is a case in point, please honor your ecology in progress. So if selling conversations set off all your crap, just go, okay, I'm still healing. I'm still growing. Yeah. Instead of making yourself really bad or collapsing because you still need healing work, because we all do. For me, the healing I still really need is a limit I have on what I believe people are willing to pay for my services. And connected to that is some belief around how many people I think will be in a program. I seem to have some ecology about that. So that's what I'm working on. It's better than it was. It's much better than it was. So, and that gives me encouragement, right? Okay, let me stop share. Any questions about any of that? And I'm just glancing at my notes. Any questions about any of that? Or did it set off any? I'm sorry, Judy.
Yeah, just one comment, I guess. The last point you made is something I haven't thought about, a limiting belief or ecology around how many people will come.
Mm-hmm.
So a class, a workshop, a gathering. I find I have a limiting belief there.
Yeah.
Will there be enough? Will we have enough to pay for the space or the event venue or whatever?
Yeah.
So that, for that.
Well, and there are also just business nuts and bolts related to that as well. The larger your mailing list, the larger you can expect your events to be. So if you have a very small mailing list, I don't tend to recommend workshops to people generally until your mailing list is a little bit bigger. By the way, Meetup is an exception to that, I just want to say. So there are some, and of course, you know, the whole question about how to make sure you have enough attendees to cover your costs it's a business question. It's a really reasonable business question. So there could be ecology in there, and there's some best business practices pieces in there as well that are really legitimate. And I want to hear everyone say, filling workshops is about the hardest thing you can do. If you're trying to build a practice on the back of one-off workshops, it's almost the hardest business model to crack. Just saying. This is why so many Constellation people, for instance, find the one-on-one approach, because it is easier to sell to one person than to 20 people. It just is. You know? So, other questions about some of these business reframes? I want to offer up frames for this work that feel more liberating than some of the ones that we've had. Okay, so no questions about this. I hope it was useful. Give a thumbs up if it was still useful, even if you don't have more questions. Excellent. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to go really nuts and boltsy. This is to give people on this workshop are in tremendously different places. Some of you are just starting out. Some of you are a few years in. Some of you have had your businesses for quite a long time. It's a little difficult to kind of be generic in terms of nuts and bolts when there's that wide a variety. So what I'm about to say, wherever you are, please translate it to your context, okay? Because it does apply in some way. Going back to screen share. Okay, so this is especially useful for people who are new to business, but it's also useful for people who have been in their business for a while, but they're still finding it a little hard to figure out how to prioritize, how to focus. It feels like there's just a lot of stuff all the time. Because it does help to begin to structure or order the way we think about our businesses. This is the way I do it. This is not, you know, truth with a capital T. It's just useful for me. I break up business into 3 different kinds of categories. There we go. I really want annotate. This is, you're going to get to see why I love Zoom so much. Where's the drawing tool? Draw, there we go, sorry. Okay, so 4 areas. The first one is your services. By the way, you all go, Zoom's so cool. Let me just do that. This is why I love Zoom. It also has a whiteboard where you can literally, if you like whiteboarding with groups, you can draw on it and stuff. It's very cool. So you start out with your services, whatever they are. You go in and you redecorate the house. You go in and you do a consultation with mom about the best way to homeschool her autistic child. You have sessions, you have workshops, you have programs, passive income, which is what happens with ebooks, things you can sell online, stuff like that. So your services, that's area one. Area two is your marketing. I'm going to get more to marketing on the next slide, so I'm not going to say much about it now, but you can see a bunch of ways in which one can market. The ways you can market are infinite, truly, truly infinite. So you want to find 2 to 3 to 4 ways that you really like doing it and which you're really effective at it. So I'm going to get back to that more detail on the next one. The next one is infrastructure. I like to reframe this as support. What your business needs, we did the Heart of Business exercise, what your business needs to feel supported. I always say about infrastructure, just enough. Again, no more, but also no less. A lot of heart-centered people struggle with systems and infrastructure that make their lives so much harder than it needs to be. And so thinking about infrastructure as a key aspect of being able to be happy and thrive in business is really important. Just an example, the other day I popped into the mail my quarterly payment to the IRS, and I have a system to make sure that that happens. Another way to say infrastructure is systems, okay? The last one, which we've talked about a little bit today, is branding. So the matter of niche, having an elevator pitch, taglines, logos, color schemes, theme songs, whatever, yeah, all your branding, yeah? So those are the basics of business. I like to think of having these 4 categories, like everything in your business gets split into these 4 categories. So at any given time, you want to be having 1 or 2 that are in the form of your services. So 1 or 2 things you're working on around your services. And at any given time, you want to be focusing on 1 or 2 things in your marketing. And at any given time, you want to be thinking about 1 or 2 things on your infrastructure. And at any given time, you want to be thinking about 1 or 2 aspects of your branding. Now, please notice me saying 1 or 2 things. This begins to help you prioritize a little bit. And if all you like is planning your services and marketing, it helps you make sure you're doing the other 2 as well. Because some businesses struggle because 1 or more of these bullets are not getting any attention. And I'm going to guess that you kind of have a sense of that already. Even as I'm talking about it, you'll be like, yeah, I'm just kind of like not even bothered with infrastructure. And you're right, it's kind of driving me nuts, and it drives my clients nuts. And it means that I miss invoices and I sometimes don't get paid, and whatever comes with your systems not being in place. Many of us heart-centered people we just like do this on marketing, blah, 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 blah. And so if we're not regularly marketing, it really gets us in trouble. By the way, those of you who've had businesses for a while, if you're curious about the feast and famine cycle, it's often because when we're feasting, when we have a lot of clients, we stop marketing. And then we don't market again until all those clients start to complete their work. So ongoing marketing is really, really important. So 1 or 2 things you're working on developing your services, 1 or 2 things you're working on your marketing, 1 or 2 things you're working on your infrastructure, 1 or 2 things you're working on your branding. Of course, in addition to your regular day-to-day maintenance in your business, answering emails, blah, 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 right? That sort of stuff, okay? Okay, so, whoops. Let's get rid of all those funny things. Okay, you need to go away. You can go away, and you can go away. Wow, this is really irritating. There we go. Okay, the funnel. This is a particular approach to marketing services. A lot of you are going to know about this in other contexts. But now that we've reframed a lot of business, hopefully you can feel like warmer fuzzies about the funnel. The funnel is really, really critical because if you're not attending to your funnel, your business is probably not going to work very well. And I want you to notice here, once again, is that there are two key reframes here, which is that marketing is about building relationships and about building trust. Marketing is not about selling. Surprise, surprise. We hope it results in selling, but it's not about selling. Marketing is about building relationships, which we like. Yay, relationships, yay, that feels good. And trust, which feels good. Okay? So the funnel, literally, you should think of a funnel. Whoops, that was terrible. And what happens is that these numbers, as they go down the funnel in this direction, which gets narrower and narrower as you go down the funnel. So at the top of the funnel up here, yeah, are ways for people to get to know you. Articles, free events, word of mouth, flyers, networking. It's the way to turn strangers into people who have heard of you. They are free, they're around, they're places people can stumble into them. You always want to make sure you have 1 to 3 ways, and more eventually, that people can get to know you. The second one is a little further down on the funnel, right? Small ways for people to get to know you better. Free events, low-cost services, articles. My best funnel event that I have is my family constellation gathering in Berkeley. It happens every 2 to 3 weeks, and it costs $5 to come in and watch. People get to know me. It's not a big commitment, very low bar to get to know me. And a lot of those people end up at another level in my business, okay? Again, you need 1 to 3 of those. Okay? Then a little bit further down are moderate-sized ways for people to work with you more. Single sessions, single consultations, small packages. By the way, this workshop and the series are in the range of 2 and 3. I was very intentional about that, right? Again, you want 1 to 3 ways of doing that. Then fewer people are going to go into larger size ways because you're building a relationship with them, right? And they're going to say, I really trust her. I really like him. He does good work with me. And that's when they start considering packages, programs, et cetera, et cetera. Now, number 5 is down here. It's only for when your business is a little bit mature. If you're brand new, please don't worry about this too much. Just notice somewhere down the road is you're going to have higher level commitments to work with you, VIP days, big programs, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Right now, that's my 4-month program. Okay. Usually only 1 or 2 of those when you get there. Because once you get up here, these become your big income providers, right? Having said that, 2 and 3, my single sessions with clients probably provide me with about 60% of my annual income right now. So do enough of these, it's like what they say in business, in the margins, you get a penny per piece and you sell 1 million pieces, you've made some money, right? So usually people newer make their money this way and make it by and they do okay. and then they add the bigger ones, and then they start getting really comfortable. Okay. You want to be thinking about this funnel. When you do marketing planning, you can't just plan 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. Again, 5 is really only for later on. You need to have a sense of all 4 of these levels. Heart of Business calls this the garden path, as the idea that people walk through to another level of relationship with you. I do want to say that there are exceptions. You'll meet someone at a bar, and the next thing is they're, signing up for your $1,000 package, right? That's terrific. It's awesome. Please don't rely on it. People meet you and they sign up for a package of 3 sessions. That's awesome. But I have plenty of people who've been on my newsletter list for 3 years before they ever do a single session with me. Or maybe they don't do a session with me at all, but they finally refer me to someone else. Yeah. So you want to think about building this. This is something you create and build and maintain over time. And then look at it and evaluate and go, this thing I'm doing on Facebook, it's just not doing anything. Why am I putting so much time into that? Or, I've been doing this meetup and it was really great for a while, but no one's been showing up anymore. Either I need to change my marketing or maybe it's time to let it go, right? It's ongoing learning. So I'm going to come back. That's all the nuts and bolts I'm doing for this particular workshop, but I'm hoping it's a framework for you, those of you who have a more mature business, to think in terms of those 4 categories. You may have noticed, oh, I'm totally not attending to that category at all, or you're trying to do too much at once. And then to know that, part of what's going on is I may not, this part of my funnel is missing. No wonder. Yeah? So questions about any of that?
I have one.
Sure.
So something like when I look at that, and when I even, kind of think about, like prioritizing, like you're saying, have kind of like 1 to 3 out there of each of these things. It's like, where do you focus on starting? Because when I look at this whole thing, I'm like, it feels really overwhelming of like, where do I start? Like, where do I, to like get the engine running? And yeah.
At the beginning.
Yeah.
So I'll go back real quickly. If number 1, if you don't have any way for people to get to know you, you're dead in the water.
Right. Okay.
Right? So some ways for them to get to know you is just really, really, really important.
Yeah.
You can have a business with just number 1 and number 2. Probably number 3, because number 2 kind of presupposes you're not making really much in the way of money.
Right.
You have 1, 2, and 3, which is ways for people to find out about you. In the old days, you would have put an ad in your local paper, right? That in some locales, that's still extremely effective. In this day and age, people tend to go to the internet for these kinds of services, right? Ways for people to get to know you, and be really critical. Do I have enough ways for people to get to know me? Am I basically only trusting word of mouth and that people will stumble on my website?
Right.
Which is effectively what number 1 is for a lot of people. You need to think of 1 or 2, just 1 or 2. And that's another way to make it a little less overwhelming. You don't have to think of 6 or 7. If you know you're a little underpowered here, just think of 1 new one. That's it. That's, if you know how you go into overwhelm, this is, by the way, just for everybody, if you do overwhelm, chunk it down. Chunk it down, chunk it down. Get it to a place where your brain isn't going, wee! Okay, What's one thing on this whole thing? What's one thing? Two, if you have no free or super low cost, if like the only way to work with you is to write a check for $200, there's a lot of people who are not going to be able to grow into that really fast.
Right.
So again, that could be you have on your website a bunch of videos or a bunch of articles or just links to stuff. For those of you who are writers, you already have these resources. You just got to get them up on your website. For people who like to write, one small way to get people to know people better is, of course, newsletters, regular newsletters. If you don't have a regular newsletter and you do like to write, that would be the first place I'd start on, number 2, because they will get to know you better. You write short articles. And then number 3, just to make sure, this is usually where everyone starts. So most people have this in place enough. They've got their massage session or their hypnotherapy session or whatever it is. They have their moderate sized thing already. The way to think about this is, how can I make it easier for people to get to know me and to relate to me and to enjoy me and to connect with me? Does that help?
Yeah, definitely. And I've started.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Other questions? Judy.
Does it make any difference? I know some people say, well, join this association or that association and you'll be listed there as a practitioner of whatever it is. Do you think that really helps?
Depends on the modality. Really, I mean, it's hard to judge. There's this thing called Body Talk. I was so amazed. I met this woman. She does Body Talk. She has no website. She's learned this modality. She's certified. She's listed on the Body Talk thing, and she makes $80,000 a year just being on their professional listing.
Okay.
So for some, like somatic experiencing, I think is probably pretty good. There's a bunch of them that the answer to that is yes. I have gotten a few referrals from a national NLP thing I found years and years ago. Can't say it was a flood. I don't know of one for family constellations.
Okay. Because there is that international, whatever it is, ITSCA or something.
I've listed my stuff there. I'm a little skeptical it's going to bring in a flood here in the Bay Area. But who knows? I mean, I belong to ISCA because I think belonging to my international association is important. This is the International Association for Constellations. And it's not very expensive. And then once you belong to it, it doesn't hurt to set up a listing. Why the heck not? So it varies very much from modality to modality. It is better for modalities that have a firm licensing, certifying system that covers everybody, which is true of things like acupuncture, chiropractic, something like Body Talk, not true of NLP, not true of family constellations, not true, well, hypnotherapy is kind of in the middle because you can get a national licensure around that. So it really depends. And if it doesn't cost much and you are curious, here's the thing with marketing, try stuff and see what happens. What I was saying to Alvaro yesterday, though, we were on a call. Here's the key around marketing. It's a long game. It is not a short game. If there's something you want to do around marketing, stick with it for 6 months. If you decided your local wellness clinic's bulletin board, or your local, I have this Piedmont spa down the street that has all kinds of practitioners up there. And you've decided putting up a flyer in that place would help you. Don't put it up and then it's gone in a week. Do it for 6 months, because it's the person who sees it the 4th time over the 3rd time they've gone to a massage there who finally decides to call you. And it's very hard to evaluate whether that marketing effort made any difference until you've done it for a little while, which is why you only want to try marketing that feels pretty good to you. So if you find a networking event you like, because there's some conscious entrepreneur groups, they're kind of cool, they're neat people that are better than the stick business cards in your face networking events. If you find one of those, stick with it for 6 months, because people then will get to know you. Marketing is a long game. And that's true of social networking. It's true of all marketing. There really isn't a fast track to this stuff. People will tell you, do the whole 6 figures in 6 months things. My sense is that anyone who's attracted to this workshop does not have the ecology for that. So we need to actually work with the fact that we need to do this a little slow, and then find ways to support ourselves, but stay at it. And then, in 2 or 3 years, you'll look back and you'll say, I built that. I made that. Wow. I didn't know how to do it, but I figured it out. I had a lot of failures along the way, but look, I did that. Cool. Any other questions? About, those kinds of, obviously, there's lots of nuts and bolts about business. Some of you have been to business training, so you already know way more than what I just talked about. But as a way to kind of prioritize and structure it, any questions or curiosity from your own realm? Helpful? Thumbs up? Really good? Okay. So often in the beginning, people just waste lots of time because they just kind of don't know where to start and how to organize it and how to prioritize a little bit. So the basics are what you need for a business. And then the funnel is the way you want to organize your thinking around marketing and services. Okay. And that's kind of all you need to know for a little bit. Okay. One other really quick topic does not deserve going through it this quickly. But I feel, and I've also referenced this a few times, so it's not going to be completely new. So for a while there, I was getting people coming in saying, please help me attract clients without doing any marketing. Or please help me manifest $1 million. I just want $1 million. And I'm like, ooh, how? Through work, through lottery? I don't care. I just want to manifest $1 million. Okay, I'll work with that. After thinking about it for a long time, I believe these kinds of requests are mostly, not completely, but mostly a distortion of the law of attraction. Now, I want to say the law of attraction is true. What you place attention on is what you tend to attract into your life. That's kind of the simplest way to sum up the law of attraction. What you place your attention on, I'm going to be poor, I'm going to be poor, I'm going to be poor. This is what you attract into your life, right? However, there's also a version of the law of attraction in which there's this childhood desire, this wounded, deeply wounded childhood desire for the parents to finally show up and be the parents. So if things are correct in childhood, no child has to manifest a school, a good, safe school. A child should not have to manifest a safe home. A child should not have to manifest and get their thinking in order to have parents who are safe for them, right? Or a neighborhood that's safe. Many of us grow up in childhoods where these were not provided for us. And in some way, maybe not always, but in some way, our parents were not able to show up, or our adult world was not able to show up for us in a way that was reliable. And so we grow up into adults who are still waiting. We just want something and have it show up, which is the way it ought to be, more or less, in childhood, right? That is proper to a child. It is not proper to an adult. To the degree that any of us still struggle with this, and most of us do to some degree or another, this requires healing of these childhood wounds. Because what we really want is not to extend our childhood into our adulthood. What we want is adult dignity, where we get to enjoy creating something and saying, I made that. Gets us back to George Leonard, the book on mastery. I've referenced this a few times. I don't know how to market. I'm going to market for a while and do it badly. I'm going to make a million mistakes. And then 3 years later, oh my God, I figured out how to market and I'm actually pretty good at it. I feel really good about figuring that out and making that happen for myself. This is called weight or authority in our business. And for many of us, our experience of our weight in our lives is something that's in need of a great deal of healing. That it's really hard sometimes to show up, or showing up as kind of small or diminished. And this will often reveal itself in our exercises with the heart of our business. It's so big, or whatever it might be. It can show up in things like, it's time to set up a website. I'm not up for it. Or clients aren't showing up. Won't someone just help clients show up? These are all perfectly reasonable longings. And what we want in business is to stand in our weight properly, whatever it is, not more and not less, so that we can learn and grow and get better and better and clearer about having our businesses and what to do in them. And so this is a big part of what I do with clients as well, is healing around our weight in our lives, weight in our businesses. Because the more we come into our proper weight in life, there's this, I don't know what to call it, but there's this settling and this freeing around business. And a lot of this stuff just falls out. I've just seen it over and over again. Like, they're just holding themselves differently, you know? So this is the last topic I offer up to you, is to feel the version of yourself. What is the time when you show up in your proper weight the best in your life? For most people on this call, it's when they're doing their modality really well, right? That's usually the moment when you're really in your proper weight, you're in a proper interaction with your client. But it may be a different circumstance. It may be in your parenting, or it may be in your partnering with someone, or, you know, it may be just walking down the street and being at a farmer's market and greeting people. Just notice a time when you know in your proper weight, and then imagine what that would be like to be experiencing that most of the time in your business. Right? That it just to kind of be viral and generalize out to your experience of being in business. As you grow, as you learn, as you apply, as you find out what you're good at, as you refine your values, and get better in being in business. Yes, Alvaro, good. Question time. Here, I'll help you out. Unmute audio. There you go. Whoops. And then I went and audit. There you go. Unmute. There you go.
The question is related to, it erased.
Alvaro, can you get a little closer to your mic? We can't hear you real well.
Okay.
Can
you hear me now?
Yeah, just move a little bit closer to your computer if you can, or move it closer to you. If you can't, that's fine. We'll just turn up our volume.
How's that?
Great.
Yeah. How important are testimonials, and how can we get them? And how can we get a good testimonial? Because I've gotten testimonials that I don't.
It's a really good question. There's a lot of ways to get testimonials. It's not just one way. The best way to do it is to be, first of all, you want to make sure that this is, again, back to the authenticity and honesty bit, is making sure that you're in alignment with yourself and you trust that this is a person who you did really good work with and who agrees with you on that, right? So if you have that person in your life, and sometimes in the beginning, you don't have much in the way of testimonials. Sometimes you have to, like, early websites don't necessarily have testimonials, right? But once we really have some people who we know we've done really good work that we're proud of, and we're pretty sure they feel the same way, I would not do it in the context of a session. That's not appropriate. But if you want to email them at another time and say, I'm really building my business. Thank you for the work that I've done with you. It's been a real honor to work with you. I've had the impression we've done good work together, and I was curious about whether you would be willing to offer up a testimonial that I can use in my marketing.
And what if they have no creative writing skills? And
you can give them a little direction. Again, we don't want to be heavy-handed, but to say something, if they say sure, then you might say, awesome. It would be really great to hear in your testimonial the problem you had and how I helped and what the outcome was. Because that's really what you want in a testimonial. I came in and my back was hurting, and 3 sessions with her and my back was as good as new. That's a testimonial. We don't want, Alvaro's energy is such a pleasure to be around, and he's so thoughtful, and I can tell he's a deeply caring person. They're really nice things, but it's not a very useful testimonial. We want, you know, I was really struggling with my self-esteem, and after a session with Alvaro, I just knew I was a good person. Something like that. You want to be careful about being too directive. You need a light touch on this stuff, because people, it does need to come from a free place, right? A really authentic free place on their part. So we want to be, you know, those are emails you want to read 3 or 4 times before you hit send. Maybe ask a friend to look at it and make sure, am I hitting the right note here? Just so that people are not, you know, those kinds of emails can go weird really easy.
Yeah, yeah, it can go exactly. It can go both ways. And what I found is that a lot of people have, or the people that I've asked testimonials for, have no idea of what exactly.
Exactly.
And so it becomes really, really hard, because in a way sometimes it's like, okay, tell me what to write. And I'm like, that's not the key. That's not the point. But at the same time, it's hard. Yeah.
In response to that, you can say, you know, I want you to be free to write something that's real for you. And what's really helpful in a testimonial is you just say in a few sentences, what was the problem and how did I help you? That might help them out a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Well, at this point, oh yes, Anke.
I just had like a quick. Oh, sorry.
I had it up really high for Alvaro. My fault.
Just a quick thing to add on to that is, you know, I did that a while ago, like several months ago, and I sent out the email, and I just am feeling a little bit frustrated because, you know, they were all people I know we had great interactions, and they, you know, they were very thankful at the time, but like 80% of them didn't even respond. And I was just kind of like, you know I need to not take it personally, you know, but I was kind of like bummed about that, and just, you know, and so, you know, and then a couple other people were like, well, I want to write something really good, so let me, you know, and then they just never did it. So I only got like 1 or 2 in the end, and it's just, and so it's like, do I write them again? I don't want to nag them, but do I just say, hey, I sent you this email a while ago, I'm wondering if you know, might still be willing, if you would be willing to do this, you know?
So a few things in there that are easily generalizable. Number 1, go back to your original email and just say, what would I do differently? Right? Just look at it and say, given I had this result, what might I do differently? Just allow it to be learning rather than a failure experience.
Right.
The people who said that they would, it is totally fair game to go back to them and say, don't want to be a nag, but wondering if it's still possible.
Right.
That's fine.
Right.
The people who didn't respond, not so much.
Just don't even.
3, 1 or 2 testimonials from that is awesome. I want you to give yourself a high five. Getting testimonials is hard. Folks, it's not easy until you have a huge business with tons of raving fans who just, they're doing transferences with you and they want to impress you and stuff. Getting testimonials is tricky. So you got 1 or 2. That's awesome. Finally, I want to say that, and I'm not going to ask for testimonials from this, but getting a testimonial from this kind of a thing is easier than a one-on-one session. Because at the end, I could hand out something to you and say, write in the workshop and say, how did it go? What did you think? Blah, 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 blah. And then, would you be willing to write a short testimonial? And then I get the piece of paper back at the workshop. Doesn't feel weird at all. For one-on-one sessions, you can't do it. You can't do that at the end of a massage or a hypnotherapy session or a coaching session. It's just not right.
Right.
So it's just more challenging. I just want to, like, the other bit about business is being able to notice when you're having a hard time with something because it's hard. Not because you're doing it wrong. This is really, really important. I work with this group, Heart of Business, and they've got a gabillion testimonials, but they've had thousands of clients who are raving fans.
Right.
When your business is 10 years old and you have several thousand clients, this will all be much easier. For now, if you have on your website 1 to 3 juicy, to the point testimonials, you're good.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. And then just one other thing I'll say, at a certain point in my business, I started wanting video testimonials from people who had been in my programs. I wrote to them very personally and I said, if this is in alignment with you, I would really love to come. I'd come to their place. I bring them the technical hardware. I said, I'd be happy to give you lunch, and I will, I'm happy to video you for a little bit of your own marketing. So I made it kind of really attractive. At the same time, I said, and if this is not in alignment, that's fine too. You want to be careful about doing that because you don't want to buy people's testimonials. But with these people, it seemed to go pretty well because they really wanted to do it. And it was a bit of time and effort. And I thought, I really should give them something for doing that. So that's another route. But that's really a more advanced thing. Video testimonials are a whole different deal. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up here because I have a few things I want to say at the end and I want to do one more exercise. So is there anything that if someone doesn't ask it or say it, they're going to feel really incomplete? So I can't ask or answer more questions about various nuts and bolts, but if there's something really pointed and important about the various things I talked about today, or just something you want to say about the experience today before I do our last little bit. Okay. So I'm going to share screen one more time. So I've seen people flail about for years in trying to build a business. I personally, I don't think it's true of people in this group. I have met other people. I spent a lot of money on business growth programs that were not a good fit for me in an attempt to figure out how to learn how to do business. And having been through it, I have really gotten a sense of what a good foundation for being in a heart-centered business is about. It's mostly not about nuts and bolts. It certainly is somewhat about that. If you don't know stuff, you learned a lot of nuts and bolts today that may have helped you out. You need to learn best business practices, but it's not mostly about that. Lots of people have learned a lot of business stuff and they still can't figure it out. It really is about developing a self-employment identity that allows resilience and hopefulness and a sense of being able to go with the highs and lows, a sense that you're in touch with your deep true north, and that you're in alignment with your deepest desire to make a commitment. Along the way, getting support and help around healing some of the blocks and getting yourself into alignment for many people, along with the nuts and bolts, is really, really important. And so I wanted to remind you, some of you have already signed up for this, but some of you have not. I have a series that starts on Tuesday. It's another one of these, you know, in terms of the funnel, it's more towards the top than the bottom. It's just 4 weeks long, 4 Tuesdays. And it's going to have more business and personal growth learning, but also there's going to be more group-based coaching, so answering specific nuts and bolts questions. There's going to be more group support because you're going to get to know each other a little bit. And because it's a week rather than a month rather than one day, it's going to be a little bit of growth over time. So it's not going to be, you know, jamming all your growth into 4 hours. 4 Tuesday nights, starting this Tuesday, going through February 16th, 5:30 to 7 p.m. Pacific time, same platform. Yay, Zoom. The nice thing that I did not demonstrate today, because I didn't want to take up the time from it, is Zoom also has a meeting room function that allows me to send you off into small groups and do exercises, which is very cool, and still see each other. So that's going to be part of it as well. So the special offer I have for everyone is that this workshop costs you $47. The 4-week series costs $87. If you buy them piecemeal, the total should be $134, but instead the total for the two is only $103. So all you have to pay for the series, if you've paid for this workshop, is another $56. Again, a bunch of you on this call have already paid for the series, so you're already in on it. But I wanted to give everyone an opportunity to consider this series if you haven't signed up for it yet. All I ask you to do is let me know as soon as possible that you want to join it on Tuesday. Please let me know by Monday so that I can, you know, get you in on the process. Also, if you, while you were in this workshop, began to think of colleagues and friends who are struggling in any way and who could really profit from the kind of different perspective I bring to all this, please send them my way. Refer them. Let them know that right now there's a super affordable way to get a bit of a jump start on getting back into alignment with being in business, whatever it might be. So I'd be really honored if you shared that with friends, and happy to have them in the series starting Tuesday night. The other thing that I want to share, as many of you know, because you've been looking at all of this in context, is that mid-March I start my next 4-month program. So I invite you to just keep that in mind. Some of you have already made your commitment to that. Others of you are a bit on the fence. Others of you are maybe thinking it's not the right time. Whatever you're thinking, I invite you to consider the 4-month program as a really sustained deep dive into getting the support so that your business can move to whatever next level it might be ready for. So at this point, I'm going to come back to any questions, because I want to do a final check-in with the heart of your business before we say goodbye to each other. But any questions about anything I just said about that 4-week series, or anything else that I do, or anything remaining from this workshop today, this is your chance before we hang up. I think Alvaro may be leaning forward. No? Any questions? Any comments? Any shares about, I'd be curious what your takeaway is for this workshop. Yeah, Ruth.
Actually, I have a question about the 4-month series and even I guess a little bit the 4-week series. is that I've identified that quite a few of my issues are ecology issues.
Yeah.
And you talk about working with that. And is the 4-month one also just, it's online, it's remote, right?
Yep.
And so I don't, when it's in a group setting like this, I'm not sure, how do you see that working out? How do you see?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
happening?
I resisted going online until I discovered Zoom. Because so much of what I do is splitting groups into mini constellations to work. So mini constellation on my mother in business, a mini constellation on money in business, a mini constellation on whatever, right? And I couldn't figure out how to do it online, because in a big room, I can send groups of 2 or 3 off into corners, right? With Zoom, I can do meeting rooms. So right now, I could split you all up into 2 groups of 3 and have you all go off and do a mini constellation exercise. So this is the way in which, there are 2 ways in which people do healing work in the 4-month program. One is the exercises we do in the workshops. So there are 8 3-hour group workshops that are part of the 4-month program. And we do lots of work together, lots of healing work together, as well as the business stuff. And then the other format in which we do it is that the 4-month program includes 6 1-hour private sessions with me. So it's not all group-based. And that's where we do some of the customized work as well.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That kind of answers my question. My
Excellent.
other conflict is that suddenly my Wednesday night group has changed to Tuesday night. Well, not suddenly, but it has, recently. And I'm going to have to ask if it can actually change back to Wednesday night if I were to do the 4-month group, because
Gotcha.
yeah.
Fair enough.
We'll see what I can work out.
Yeah. We've all, I how many times have I looked at something I really want to do and I'm like, damn, that's the one night of the week I can't do it. Judy, yeah, you have a question.
Yeah, just about Zoom. I've known about it for a while, and I think it's pretty affordable. Is it $100 a year? Okay.
I'm gonna have to remember it's about $15 a month now.
Okay. So that's changed maybe from what I was told before.
Yeah, I think it
didn't
went up a
ask
little bit.
Zoom, just somebody told me. And yeah, how long did it take you, or how hard was it to learn how to operate it? Like to divide people into groups, and so I have the potential to do a lot of online stuff.
Online is often that some people need to make in their businesses, and I'm just going to mute you because we seem to be getting that echoey thing. Zoom is it's unbelievably intuitive. If you go to zoom.us, they have a bunch of little demos. You can even try it for free. The limitation on the free service is that you can only do 40-minute sessions, so it's too short for most people. But it's a good thing to get it for free and go ahead and play with it a little bit. That's why I love Zoom. I did this stuff a bit on Google Hangouts for a while, and I couldn't teach anyone to use Google Hangouts. I just tore out my hair. People could not figure out Google Hangouts. Zoom, you all got on with no problem. This would not have happened with Google Hangouts. I can promise you, it would not have happened. So Zoom it's beautifully designed, and it's a very solid platform. We had one freeze in 4 hours. Pretty good. So it's very easy to learn. It's very intuitive. In fact, Judy, you've probably learned 50% about how to use it already just by being a participant. Yeah. Other questions? Okay, so let's shift gears very quickly. Just, we want to visit the heart of our business. I like to do this at the beginning and at the end, just so you can see if it's different. And Carolyn, you'll just get the win time. So just close your eyes. And I'll do this a little quicker this time because you're ready for it. But please imagine that the heart of business is across from you. Just check in. How does it feel? Does it feel the same? Does it feel different? Just notice. And again, before you close it out, promise your heart of business that you will do this from time to time. And then come on back. Any last thoughts or takeaways? Anything you noticed about rechecking in with the heart of your business before we say goodbye to each other? It's always really nice to hear. Yeah, Raquel.
Oh, I just wanted to say that it felt, at the beginning, it felt sort of unsupported and a little bit hollow. And, it was now it feels very full and more in alignment and in agreement. And there's enthusiasm about sort of taking some of the steps and just having more alignment and moving forward with it.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Judy was about to say something.
Yeah, it was a little more distant from me the first time. It was really large and very present. This time, it was still large and present and had its arms around me.
Oh.
Yeah, like holding me and said, thank you for paying attention to me. Yeah, felt very supportive.
Nice. Other observations or takeaways?
For me, the business felt more real and still scared, but actually it wasn't this big terror thing. It was more like it's like, oh, okay, yeah, here's the scary parts, here's the, it's like, this is doable, just much more grounded and yeah, flesh. There's some flesh to the bones. Yeah. So
Nice.
Yeah.
And there are things that are scary in business. So we just go, okay, I'm scared. Okay, yeah. Anyone else? A takeaway or an observation at the end there? Okay, I'm going to send you off into this day. Do follow up with me if you have any questions. If you have not signed up for Tuesday night, but you would like to, any other inquiries into my programs, and if there's anyone you think who you'd like to recommend the series to. And in the meantime, many blessings on you and your businesses. And let's see, can I figure out how to unmute all? How do I unmute all? There's some way to do it, but I don't know how. Because it would like to hear everybody say goodbye. So you can unmute yourself and just say goodbye. We'll have a lot of feedback.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good day. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You too. Nice meeting you all.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.